All right. Good afternoon. Thank y'all for being here. Hopefully, got to see something while you were out there today. Appreciate y'all not once we started some 11-on-11 work, turning off the cameras. I appreciate y'all doing that. I wanted y'all to be able to see because we got out there a little bit later. So, but I appreciate y'all doing that. Good day today. This was practice 11. We really just did four core special teams. We lined up and played situational football, didn't tackle. But I think that's what we need right now. We just need to play. Tried to turn the music up once the music started working. We probably right after y'all left. Tried to turn it up, keep the coaches off the field, and get a really good look at what our guys know and then how they do it. Purpose was we tried to put our defense in some really tough situations in the red zone. I thought they responded well. Offensively, we tried to put in some third downs and a coming off situation, try to put as much pressure as we could on the quarterback. And there was some good and bad. I thought that the second half of practice was much better for Jarret than the first. But he's played really well all camp. I thought our defense was really solid in the red zone, minus one play all day. Probably our best day overall defensively that we've had in camp, which is a positive. I'm glad to see that. Special teams work. We did a competition there, punt versus punt return, and we'll have some good video to teach and really kind of build our depth chart off that, kind of carried over that from the spring. Kickoff return, didn't get done what we wanted to get done on that. I thought our kickoff team, we got some full speed work. Just tagging off on the returner, and that was positive. And then our punt team finished the practice. Trying to get our punt team is tired, and it's mostly first teamers, either offense or defense. Try to get them tired and make them execute in a protection scenario, but also in a coverage, and we did that. And I like where our punt team is. Field goal wise, we made all our kicks today, and I'll tell you somebody that I haven't talked about that's had a really solid camp is Casey Legg. He's done really well. So proud to kind of recognize him because he's done a nice job. Monty said y'all were asking about Tony Matthews out, minor injury. I'll update you after today. And then Goose Crowder wasn't out there. He's got a stomach virus. So, but everybody else that's here was out there. So, with that, I'll take questions.
So, Coach, I guess technically today's the last day of camp since classes start tomorrow. You still got a couple weeks before your first game, but what have you learned these couple weeks of camp? What do you still not know?
Yeah, we start school here a little bit earlier than some people. We're really trying to stay in camp mode up through the 24th, through the evening of the 24th, which will be our it'll be very similar to what we did today. We'll do all 11-on-11 work, except we'll go in the stadium and execute it like a game. Probably do some more 1s-on-2s and 2s-on-1s in a week from today. So we'll stay in camp mode. As far as school starts tomorrow, we'll give them an off day tomorrow. We have a team meeting. But we're going to stay in camp mode. I like these. The players are probably ready for them to be done just because they're all day. It's a glimpse of what they say they want, and they want to be full-time football players. And during camp, I think we've had 12 or 13 days of it, and they've got a glimpse of that. So we'll have our final walkthrough tonight, and then they'll have tomorrow to start school.
Football put out a video of a walk-on getting a scholarship yesterday by Callie Ruffin. So, I mean, just the nicety for a coach to be able to do that. Have you added any other walk-ons the last few months to scholarship?
Yeah, that's really one of the really fun things. Honestly, there's sometimes not a whole lot of fun because sometimes you got to make hard decisions and decisions that are going to upset a certain number of people, and that's one of the situations that really everybody's excited. And Malachi, we try to be creative in how we do it. He won't be the only walk-on that we put on scholarship here in the next couple of weeks. We're waiting for a couple jobs to be earned, and before we do a couple of them. But we have a really good walk-on program. I think that's something that that we didn't create. It's something that's been here. It's part of the tradition of West Virginia, and so many of them are in state. Malachi's not, but so many of the guys that have came here and earned scholarships and been really good players and contributed to our program are guys that are walk-ons that are from West Virginia. So Malachi is a great kid. First of all, he started at the same time I did, January of 19, and he's just worked. He really has. He's got really good speed. He played for us last year on a couple different special teams and made a difference. If you remember, he made a great play against Texas. Then, in spring, he kept growing. He won our individual special teams award, and he had the most points of all our special teams competitions, and you all got to see several of those from some open practices. And he competed, and he's earned it. He's got over a 3.0 GPA, and I thought it was really neat that we got his mom and dad involved on Zoom. And so they were the ones that were able to break the news to him, and he's well liked by all facets of the team. So that was a fun deal.
Yeah. Talk about how Leddie Brown has really expanded his skill set.
He has, and I think it's not been overnight. It's been over 2+ years that he's really grown into an established receiving threat. He had 30-something catches a year ago. I hope we can increase that. I'd love to see him in that 45 to 60. I think he's capable of it. In spring ball, we used him a lot, split out, just because we weren't going to get him tackled. And that helped him. He grew. He took the summer really seriously as far as running routes and catching balls. He's got as good a hands as anybody. He understands leverage now. So I'm excited about his ability to go out and do that, not only from the backfield but split out. And the other thing too is he's much improved in protection, and that was something that was asked about by the scouts. We didn't ask him to do it a ton last year, but he has been on point. Good technique. He hadn't missed assignments during camp to this point, and then I think that his ability to run outside has improved. And that's something that we've emphasized spring ball in now through 11 practices in camp, is we wanted him to be able to not just be an interior runner, but somebody that can get on the perimeter.
Coach Scotty was in here yesterday talking about the developmental program.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways did he grow during his redshirt year? And how do you guys go about setting goals, particularly for those transfers who have a lot of experience but can't play for a season?
Yeah, well, the developmental program is something that, after the 24th, on that Wednesday, the 25th, is we're going to make some decisions. Who's in the two deep, who's ready to play special teams, who are the guys we want to start off as newcomers playing, and who are the guys that just aren't ready. Maybe we'll get them. Maybe they'll be ready to play 4 games later in the year, but they need a red shirt, right? And what we'll do is those guys in the developmental program, they go into an off-season mindset as far as in the weight room, and for 4 days during the week, all right, they don't go to position meetings. That time is used in the weight room. And Coach Mike and his staff, they treat it just like they would January, February, or June, July, as far as – and a lot of times those are first-year guys, sometimes maybe second-year offensive linemen or defensive linemen. And then we put transfers. And 2 years in a row, we've had really good leadership in that group. The first year we were here was Alonzo Adai. And what that did is it really allowed him to have a voice within the team, because he was the veteran in that group. He set the standard. He really pushed the younger guys, and I think it helped that group. And then Scotty did the same last year. And I thought it really paid off for him, because once they changed the rule and he was able to play in the bowl game, he was so much stronger and he was ready. He was in shape and ready to play due to going through that developmental lifting program. And then for him, I think he found his voice, and he really found kind of a group. Because it's hard. He transferred here right as camp was starting. He knew he had to sit out, so he wasn't traveling. He wasn't necessarily in the mix as far as playing. So that gave him a group and something to belong to that really helped him, I think, mentally and physically.
Neal, with Tony out, saw Sparrow a lot early. I thought he had a couple of nice runs early too. Where is he at? How can he kind of figure into carries on game days, you think, early?
Yeah, he's got to continue to improve. He's got great speed. His best days are usually scrimmage days, which I guess is good and bad. For as coaches, I tell our players all the time, this is a practice sport. I mean, it really is. It's a practice sport. Baseball, you play more games than you practice. Basketball, you usually play more games than you practice. But football, we're a practice sport. We're playing 12 to 16 games, and we're practicing a whole lot more. And you got to earn trust during practices. And he's in the process of earning that trust. He did have a couple nice runs today. He's just got to be more consistent. He's got breakaway speed. He's a guy that we would like to come on because he has a speed element that we don't have.
Along those lines, you have some players in some positions who maybe are first-year guys or maybe first year you really need them or they've been in position. You kind of hold your breath a little bit, put them in because you need them and see how they go in the field. Like, it could be defensive line, it could be running back, but it might make more sense to develop, but you might have a hole in the depth chart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some guys that they got to get ready. They don't have the comfort of sitting around and waiting, and those guys are a lot of them in our secondary. You think about Davis Mallinger, we got to get him ready. St. McLeod, we got to get him ready. Charles Woods, who's a transfer, a little bit different, but we've got to get him ready to play. Lance Dixon, Deshaun Stevens, they're transfers, but they got to be ready to play. You're talking about a short turnaround as far as getting ready to play in the first game. And then up front, I think that, somebody is going to have to come on and play. Hammond Russell's done some good things. I haven't mentioned him. He made a couple nice plays today. He's showing, and he's a guy that his best football is definitely down the line, but he may be a guy that's ready to contribute right now. Offensively, Wyatt Milam he's going to play. Caden Prather, he's going to play. Justin Johnson is going to have opportunities to play, and those are at all positions where true freshmen are going to be not, I wouldn't say pressed, but they have an opportunity and we have a need.
What do you see the profile of your offense being? It seems like you're going to be able to throw the ball pretty good from the way you mentioned the way Jarret's improved, the wide receiver.
Yeah, I think so. It goes back to, and I'll come back to you, Mike. Sorry about that. But Leddie Brown is we're going to run our offense through him. And I think he's the one guy that's really proven that he can go out and win games. Now, my expectation is we're going to be much improved in the passing game, and our stats really weren't bad last year throwing the football. We would like for them to be better, but they weren't bad. But I do think that our quarterback and our receivers are much improved, but our offense is going to run through Leddie. Mike, I'm sorry. What was your second part?
Your developmental program, is that kind of a sliding scale, not position to position as much as year to year, because maybe your parameters one year, last year, could be very different than this year?
Yeah, and basically what we do is anybody that we think is going to be a player, they're just not ready to be a major contributor. And so basically what we do is we have our developmental program that those are guys that probably aren't going to play a big role right now, but they definitely have a future in the program. And then we have the guys that are traveling, but they're maybe not a starter. Maybe they're not playing a high number of reps. And that group's kind of fluid, Mike. So let's say that we've got a freshman it's usually not freshman. We keep them in developmental unless they're playing a lot. But let's say it's a second-year player. Let's say it's a seventh offensive lineman. All right, well, 1 week he plays 50 snaps. Well, his strength stuff is going to be a lot different than if he plays 10. All right, so that's where it really becomes a sliding scale as far as week to week, how much work we're going to put on those guys. And then the third group that we have is the guys that are playing a lot of snaps every single week. And each program, the developmental, the travel, but limited, and then the guys that are playing high number of reps. Mike and his staff has a different plan for all of those, for all three groups. I'm sorry.
Matt was talking yesterday about the competition and the depth in the offensive line is completely different than really when you guys first got here. Is that where you've noticed?
It is, and we're still a year away as far as having the number of bodies, but we are improved. Now we've got to go out and do it against good people. We're going to get challenged early, but we're better. We're definitely better, but we're talking about 7, 8 guys ready to play. I think teams that are competing for championships are in that 10 to 12 up front. And we're probably a year away from that. But I do like how we're practicing. I think that they've had a really, by far the best winter and summer they've had since we've been here. I think there's really good leadership up front. with Zach Frazier leading the way. I think there's great continuity and chemistry between those top 7 guys, or top 7, 8 guys. And today I thought they started off slow, or we had good first drive offensively, and then kind of lulled there, but then came out and really answered a challenge, which I was pleased to see.
Matt was also talking yesterday with your offensive line deficiencies the last couple of years. Your playbook had to be cut down because you couldn't block everything. How expanded is that now? Is it greatly expanded, little expanded, just because you hopefully can block things better?
Well, we hope we can be more well-rounded in the run game. You know, we really protected our tackles last year, so hopefully we can do a little bit more than we've done the first 2 years. That's the hope. That's the hope. You know, I think our talent is improved, all right, and we're stronger. Are we strong enough? I think to be determined. But like I said, I like those kids. I really do. And I think that anytime you have a group that's got some grit up front, then you got a chance, and they do. Now, we may get outmanned a couple times, but we're in the process of getting where we need it to be. The good thing about those guys is we're going to have them all for 2, 3, some of them 4 years.
Any update on Jalen Hill?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Coach,
I'm sitting there. I was like, Jalen Thornton, he practiced all day. He's at good camp. Sorry.
my bad, Coach.
No, you're fine.
Back off of Keenan's question about the O-line. Coach Moore yesterday said that, you know, he wants people to think that the line is physical. That's what he wants people to say about your guys' offensive line. If you had the opportunity to, what would you want people to say about your offensive line?
Yeah, that you want to be physical up front. You know, I think that's the mentality we got to have. That's how we've been intentional about practicing that way in the spring and in the fall. It's made our D-line better, and I think our D-line's talented. It's been great competition. Akeem Messidor, Zach Frazier, Dante Steele versus Brandon Yates, and Doug Nestor. You know, our right tackles have had a really good mix up with our bandits. I mean, I think that both sides of the football up front are playing more physical than they have in the past. And it's because we've been able to practice it consistently because we have more bodies and we're more talented. We're not on the ground all the time. It's hard to practice physical when you're on the ground all the time. So we're getting better in that aspect. But I think physicality is extremely important.
That's a good overall descriptor. Are there specific things, initial punch, finishing blocks? You mentioned staying up. That you're really looking for to define that?
Well, we want to be a team that has a great ball get off. You know, I think if you look at people that are, and really it's individually, if you look at some guys that play at the highest level in college, or their twitch off the ball is really important. Right? And then people get real movement on double teams. I think that's a big difference between average teams and really good teams up front is, man, they get moving on double teams, and they're able to sustain blocks. You know, and it's hard, man. I'll tell you, I always talk like catching punts and returning punts. To me, that's the hardest thing in football. And then playing offensive line is the hardest day in and day out. It really is. And, you know, quarterback's hard on game day, but not as much in practice. You know, offensive line is hard every day.
As a coach, it must be fun to watch Frazier and Messidor go at it
Yeah.
in the middle of the line. What are those confrontations like, and what other ones on your team, one-on-one matchups do you like to watch?
Well, the two things that are really the great thing about that is, man, both those kids, Zach Frazier and Akeem Messidor, they're all in. They're never on list. They don't say a whole lot as far as they're going to give you everything they have all the time. They love to practice. They love to compete, and they battle. They battle, and they appreciate each other, and I think that's important. They really do. Like, if you come in here and ask Akeem Messidor, he knows that Zach Frazier is making him better. Zach Frazier really values the fact that Akeem Messidor is making him better, and that's not always the case. So those two guys, I think they're really high-level players, and we're fortunate to have them. We're even more fortunate that they're only in their second year, and I think their best football is going to continue to build in front of them. As far as some other matchups, I think that you know, Jackie Matthews and Bryce Wheaton have been really active in the spring and now in the fall, and that's a battle that's gone both ways. You know, I think that they're both making each other better. Not just in the one-on-one, man-to-man covers, but in the run game as well. Jackie's improved Bryce's ability to block. All right. Some other matchups, I think Chandler and Leddie Brown. And they face off a lot, and I think they respect each other, and they understand that they've pushed each other to be better. And so those are some that are off the top of my head that I think are some of the ones in camp that have stuck out to me.
How's Dante Stills not in camp?
Yeah, he's been active. He has. We moved him around a bunch, and honestly, I'm really pushing Dante, and not just myself, but Jordan and AJ as well. Really just trying to push him out of his comfort zone. Went to media day. That was something that was a little different for him. I think he's having some NLI opportunities, or NIL, excuse me. I always mess those up. NIL. We've already signed him up, but he's had some name, image, likeness opportunities that I think's pushed him to grow. And we've moved him around defensively. We've pushed him as far as challenging him to lead and be consistent every single day. So I'm pleased with where he's at. I really am. I think he's made real growth. And he's embracing that challenge.
You singled out Casey Legg earlier. Where are you in your kicking competition with Evans' return?
Yeah, very much one. It's very much a competition. It really is. It kind of ebbs and flows. Casey's probably been the most consistent. Really proud of Evan for being able to come back and string some days together with his knee. We talked about how difficult that was. Sumter's got a chance in that battle as well.
Your pass rush, kind of as much as you can say, like what and who has stood out, and then how can you even evaluate that given how limited you have to be or want to be before September 4th?
Yeah, it is hard. If we had our defensive linemen in here, they think every time's a sack, right? And so, and the quarterbacks think they never get sacked. So it's like, and I stand out there and whistle the sacks most of the time, so I'm the bad guy for at least half the team. But I think Linnell Carr's our best natural pass rusher. Taj Austin has really had a solid camp. We've moved Dante and Akeem. They've played all three positions. They both are really good pass rushers. And then everybody else we're just trying to continue to develop. Like Torres Simmons, Jalen Thornton, Jordan Jefferson, Sean Martin. Those guys, we're pushing them, but the ones I listed at the beginning are the ones that have shown the most promise thus far.
You say Sumter's a possibility in the field kicking game. Are you comfortable with him doing punting and field goal kicking, or would you look to have him simply stick with one?
Yeah, we did. We had him do both 2 years at Troy when he was with us there, and then he did it at the end of the season last year. I always kind of default to the kicker, and they're different motions. They really are. They're different motions. Really doesn't hurt his ability as a punter to do the field goals. He likes doing both. Yeah, is it perfect? No, it's probably not perfect. But if he wins both jobs, he wins both jobs, and we'll do it. Anybody else?
Okay.
All right, thank y'all. Appreciate it.